Are we here? Do people see me now? Hopefully. If you can. I think I'm on a totally different video now, so for some reason the multi-feed did not work. So I'm hoping that people will come back on. Let me see if I can find. My apologies, everybody. This is technology in 2022. You can't. If I see that there's some people on, if you can just write in the chat. I see that there's a bunch of people on. Yes, Thomas, I see you now. Thank you so much. Hopefully, now I'm going to just bring this over. My God. Nothing. Okay. Okay, so I think there's a little bit of a delay, but I think we're good to go. Okay. Joe, Stephen, thank you so much. Oh, my God. Thank you for your patience. I swear you have to have a sense of humor to be doing stuff live these days. My name is Risa Morimoto. I'm an integrative nutrition health coach, and you're watching Modern Aging. We're a place where we focus on elevating our health and wellness as we age. And welcome to part one of our 4-part series on moving to Mexico. This one is focused on Cabo San Lucas. So if that's what you're here for, you're in the right place. Yes, available. Hello, Kathleen and Paul. Thank you so much, Cam, Pat. Okay, we're in business. Okay, great. I'm so sorry. My apologies. So before we kick things off, I just want to do a little bit. I have like 3 screens that I'm looking at right now. So if I feel like, if it looks like I'm looking away, it's just because I'm trying to manage. So today we're going to focus on Cabo San Lucas. But before we do that, I just want to do a little housekeeping. This is going to run about 45 minutes to an hour or so. We are going to have a Q&A, so definitely make sure you have your questions. I know that there's a little bit of a delay on the chat, or through the streaming, but we will get to your questions. Just as a reminder, you might want to just put on your phones on Do Not Disturb or close your door, or whatever it is, because we're going to focus on this and it's going to be amazing. You are in for a treat. It's amazing. Glen, Tracey, and Michele have so much great information for you if you're considering this move. If you have not seen our other videos on Modern Aging's YouTube channel, I've been doing a bunch of them because I've been traveling to Mexico for quite a number of years. And if you're here, you already know why you're here, right? Mexico has a lot of many advantages to living a more fuller life, that you can have a higher quality of life. And as we get into our later years, that is something that becomes more and more important to us. So, okay, so we are good to go. I'm going to bring on our guests. Hi, Glen, Tracey, and Michele. Are you
Hi, guys.
Michele?
Hi, all.
Great to see you, Risa.
Oh, good. Great. I can hear everybody. We're good to go. Oh, my God. Andy, Lori, Mike, and Arlene, Cindy, we have a whole bunch of people on right now. It's good to see everybody. So we're going to kick things off by talking about where you're from, and how you actually even figured out that Cabo was the place that you guys wanted to land. So why don't we start with Glen and Tracey? Oh,
So
you're
we are
muted.
originally from South Africa, then
hold on.
No. Can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? All right, here we go.
Okay. No.
Can the rest of the group hear us?
You're some weird thing. You're kind of fading in and out. Michele, maybe we start with you.
Sure, that sounds good. Is there a delay?
Yeah, there is a delay. Do people feel the delay in the I can see the delay, but maybe people on YouTube don't. Hold on.
So I'm not sure if you can hear us properly, Risa.
That's good.
I can hear you properly. Glenn and
Yeah,
Tracey,
that
why
was
don't you
good,
go?
Glenn.
So sorry. Okay, Thomas says yes.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds like it's just a delay. That's it.
Okay.
So, Glenn and I are actually originally from South Africa. And in 2000, we moved over to Canada, to Toronto, and came to Mexico the first time 11 years ago on holiday. We were staying at the Rio and absolutely fell in love with this place. We just realized that it was somewhere where we knew that we ultimately wanted to come and live and to retire. We went back home to Toronto and immediately bought our first house sight unseen through realtors. That's how much we loved the place.
This is like 12 years, 11 years ago already. So it's been a while now in the making.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. But then you lived in Tampa and you were only planning on doing it kind of part-time and using it as a vacation place, right?
Yeah. So what we did, we actually, I got a job transfer with work and ended up having this opportunity to go to the States. And we had our home when we were living in Toronto, but we were moving to sunny Florida. And in hindsight, it was a mistake, but we ended up selling our place and thinking, well, we'll buy a place when we're ready to move to Mexico.
You
It was
sold
always
your
in the
place in
plan.
Mexico.
Yes.
Yes.
And then we came back, and a long story short, we came back to Mexico and bought our place again. So we had ultimately always intended to come here and live here. And for us, there's a lot of similarities to the African culture, actually, in terms of the love Mexicans have for their families. And there was just this warmth and this cultural fabric that just really appealed to us and reminded us a bit of the African, culture in a way. So it was a nice fit for us. And maybe a simpler life is a good way to put it.
That's awesome. And Michele, what about you?
Well, we're from Calgary, Alberta, and both my husband Mark and I were in the oil industry. So we lived that busy, hard kind of lifestyle. And just like Glen and Tracey, we've been coming for years and love it. We love the people, we love the weather, and the food culture here is amazing. An interesting point is that the Baja really in the last 30 years has grown 1,000%. And with saying that, a lot of the people throughout Mexico have come here, brought their families, and brought their food culture. And so in the Baja, you really get a wide range of Mexican food. And it's always terrific. Food is always so good here, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, the variety, you're absolutely right. The variety of food and different restaurants and just
Yeah.
these amazing little gems you continue to find. You won't see it here today, but you'll discover it a year down the road and it's been there for 40 years. And so
And-
there's always these beautiful places everywhere. And so you're right, the food is one amazing element. And of course,
Right.
the weather.
And the weather. And the weather here is fantastic. It rains 10 days a year. That's it. That's all. I mean, blue sky. It's just wonderful here. And that's why we kept coming back and kept coming back, just because we felt so welcome. And unemployment rate here is before COVID, it was less than 1%. So it's just an awesome, wonderful feeling to be down here in the Baja.
So it's nice because both of you are not of retirement age yet, right?
No.
So you've kind
Well,
of
I
made
can't speak for Michelle. We're not.
so you knew that this would entail doing either something remotely or something locally. Tell me a little bit about what kind of work you have found down there, and how difficult or easy was it to navigate that?
Okay, so shall I take that one, Risa?
Yeah.
Okay, so for us, Tracy and I had always had this. We always loved beautiful homes, and we loved, interior decoration, and we always made an effort to put a lot of money and time into our own homes, and so we always had this hankering towards real estate. But with our jobs and corporate, it just didn't make sense when we were living in the States and in Canada. And so we said, well, one day perhaps if we move to Mexico, that would be our opportunity to start real estate and selling real estate, really not knowing anything about what that meant. And full circle, we had this opportunity to get onto House Hunters International. And through that program, we met you, of course, Risa. And then we met Leroy, who's the owner of the brokerage that we work for now, which is CaboCribs.
It was actually a funny story. He said to us, "Are you two retired?" And we said, "No." And he said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And we said, "Well, actually, we would love to get into real estate." And he said, "I can't believe it. I was going to ask you too if you would come and work with us."
Yeah, and so then you ended up having to take an exam or a class or something, right, to get formally registered?
Yes.
You have to get certified here, yes.
It is a process, and it's not, if I had to compare doing this to what I hear people having to go through in the States, I think doing it in Mexico is a little easier. It's not as complex in terms of the licensing, but there is definitely a course you have to do, and you have to get certified and registered with the government, and then you can legally start to sell properties here on the Baja. And for us, it's just been amazing, having gone down this path. And I guess there's always a risk. When we left, we'd sold everything, right down to the last pen, pencil, knife and fork, and put what we could in our car, and we drove from Tampa to Mexico, to the Baja, which is, what was it, nearly a 6,000 kilometer round trip, or miles, sorry. And so we came here with really no idea of what we were going to do. We were willing to fund our first year, so we'd saved up enough money to do that, not knowing the outcome. And fortunately, we got up and running really quickly, and we managed to sell our first house, and then things started to go from there.
You guys have done great. It's amazing.
Thank you. It's been fun, and we've got the most amazing clients. I'm actually just looking at the guest list there, and I'm seeing a couple of names I recognize, and it's just so nice to be able to have these relationships. And I think this has been the most valuable thing for us personally, is people putting their trust and us being able to do something we love, and then ultimately becoming friends with people in the process, because Cabo really isn't that big. So we're making these friends and at the same time doing something we enjoy. So right now we're in exactly the right place we need to be in this universe.
That's awesome. So Michele, what were your plans? I mean, I think a lot of people have hesitations about moving abroad because of work, right? And what if, and what do we do, and for money, and that sort of thing. So were you planning? So what was your plan? And what are you doing now?
I guess we also had a plan of coming down, and so we decided to come down during COVID. So everyone's heard that story where things just do not go as planned when there's COVID. So we had a few hiccups along the way. One, we couldn't drive down. We ended up having to fly, and we've got 2 large dogs and a cat. So we also couldn't bring a lot of things because we're flying. So with including the dogs and the cat, we had 10 bags, and we couldn't get a direct flight to Cabo. We also had to fly through LA. But Mark and I talked about writing the children's story for quite some time about our dogs. So that kind of opened up the opportunity, to just come, relax. Mark's got an online business that he still focuses on. And we were able to, sit down and laugh and reminisce about the times we had with our dogs. And we started writing our first children's story, and we've got 2 books out. So
amazing.
So awesome. Actually, which leads me, so I'm going to change this around a little bit. So this is where Cabo is. And maybe one of you can describe. So Los Cabos is what the area is called, right? And there's 2 different cities, Cabo San Lucas
Correct.
and San Jose, that's connected by what they call the corridor, which is essentially highway.
And Cabo San Lucas is right on the tip of the Baja Peninsula.
Or what we'd refer to as the Californian coast, right? So that what the first body of water you're looking at there is the Pacific Ocean. And then it's where the 2 oceans meet. you've got the Sea of Cortez or the Gulf of California in the bay, and that's the bay, that's Cabo, that's the entrance of the harbor there. And what we refer to as Land's End, or the iconic arch that we have in Cabo, which you'll see on every single promotional material for Cabo San Lucas. But Cabo means Cape, so you'll often refer to Cabo or Los Cabos, like you said, which is the grouping. But you have San Jose and San Lucas, and we live in San Lucas. It's often referred to generically as Cabo San Lucas, but it's really the city's called San Lucas.
Well, something new I've just learned.
There you go.
San Lucas
How about
of the
that?
Cape and St. Joseph.
St. Joseph and St. Lucas of the Cape.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And it's amazing. It's so beautiful. The sea on the Pacific side's a rougher, colder ocean. It's a little bit more dangerous for people to go and swim and use that side, but it's also cooler. So some people like to live on the Pacific side, and it's really just a few miles and you're on the Pacific. Or the side we're on is a little warmer. And even as you go closer to San Jose, which is actually where the international airport is, SJD is the designator, you can have up to 2-3 degrees temperature difference between San Lucas and San Jose. And then the corridor, as you mentioned, which has many resorts, all-inclusive hotels, high-end, the Hilton, all of those.
And some beautiful beaches all the way along the coast there.
That beach that you can see at the end there on the Pacific side is referred to as Divorce Beach because the waters are so hostile and rough. So.
And on the other side, it's calm and warm, and that's Lovers Beach.
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah.
For real.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
And actually, just a little bit of history here, Risa. That beach, and part of the reason why it was called Divorce Beach, it's got some heritage behind it. 100 years or so ago, when nothing was, maybe more than that, when there were pirates, the pirates used to meet the ladies of the night on those beaches, and there's caves and all the rest. And so the anguish and the turmoil with families, and that's kind of part of the divorce and the horrible side of the rough seas and so on. So there's a pirate story in there somewhere.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, and I think people don't realize, for people who have not been to Cabo, people think of Mexico and they think very hot and humid, but the temperature, the climate in Cabo or that whole area is desert climate.
That's
Yeah,
right.
we have a desert climate, which is fantastic. So it's a lot drier. We have about 3 months where the humidity increases. That would be August, September, and October. And that is also September and October are our rainy season. So like Michele mentioned, we don't have a lot of rain, but we do have the odd days of just downpours, where or you could get a hurricane thrown in the mix.
Right.
The lovely,
We ran into two last time.
sorry. What's that, Michele?
We ran into 2 hurricanes when we first arrived there this last year, and because we traveled in August, so yeah, we had 2 hurricanes, and it was quite an interesting ordeal.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Nothing like having a hurricane as a welcome into your life.
Making an
your life in
entrance.
Cabo.
That's right.
So I'm going to segue here. I want to show a picture of your house, Glen and Tracey. You live your condo is on the upper level.
Yeah, it looks fancier. It looks fancier in the picture than it really is. But
it's a pretty nice place, though.
Yeah, we love our house. It's an upper unit, and we have a really nice balcony. There you can see it over there. That balcony has a view directly of Land's End, or the arch that we were just looking at in the previous picture. And it's about 1,600 square feet. And in fact, it's the house that's on House Hunters International. So if anyone watches the show, they'll be able to see the house. But it's a lovely home. It's only 2 bedrooms, but it's in a community.
Lovely complex. We only have 34 homes in our complex, and we actually are within walking distance of the beach. And that's something that was pretty important to us. And, you can see the sea there. It's really not far from where we live.
What's the advantages of living in kind of a smaller complex versus, kind of one of these more huge commercial complexes?
I don't know if there's a significant advantage either way. I think it all depends on people's choice and lifestyle, and most often, really location and what people want to get out of it. For instance, our development doesn't have a lot of amenities. It has a swimming pool. But a lot of these really bigger places, condo units, developments, which are amazing, have pickleball courts. They have multiple swimming pools, gyms.
Yeah.
They have everything, and so everything. It's kind of like a mini resort, but you own your place and you're living in it, and you got everything there. Even restaurants, and retail space, and so there is everything in between. You can buy standalone homes and live in those. A lot of people like to live in these types of developments because it has a level of security, 24-hour security for the most part. Now, the one important thing for all the listeners here today to understand is we're separated from mainland Mexico here with the Sea of Cortez. So Cabo San Lucas was actually voted the second most safest city in all of Mexico just recently. And La Paz, which is only 2 hours away, was voted the first. So we have very little crime happening in this part of Mexico. It's really just an extension of the Californian coast, as I said. And it's actually quite modern in many respects, and it's quite rural in many respects. So a lot of Americans, Canadians living here. So it boils down to individual taste. I wouldn't say that there's a pro and con between any of them.
Right.
Well, Glen, when we first came down and you and Tracy found us that place in Toscana, I have to say that community, being a small community like yours, I think there was only 12 homes or something that were occupied when we first moved down, was fantastic. I still miss it. And that was a vacation rental, and we lived there for 2.5 months, and it was absolutely fantastic. Versus the place we're in now, there's not a sense of community here like there was in the smaller places. And we're in amongst a lot of locals where we're living right now, and there's a difference for sure. And I would have to say that you guys are very lucky to have that great place. Like, your place is fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And I think this is what I was saying. It's going to boil down to individual taste, and it's part of the adventure and the exercises. It's like eating out here. You've got to sample a bit of everything, and you've got to explore local taste, and you've got to have exposure to living in a 75% weighted American and Canadian type of community versus maybe a 40-70 split of Mexican local people and Americans and Canadians. And they all, like I said, have their merits. Some people don't like that. Some people love that. We've got people that we met that only want to live with locals. So it just depends on individual taste. But to your experience, Michele, you've started to see two different sides of it. So now you can start to narrow it down ultimately to where you want to live.
And I think, again, like, ours is a much older development. So our particular house still has a lot of Mexican charm to it, but a lot of people prefer modern and slick and granite and all that sort of thing, which obviously all the newer developments are going that way. So it depends on people's preference,
Right. So let's talk numbers a little bit. So how much did you spend to repurchase? You purchased in 2020, right?
We purchased our house in 2011.
11. And then you sold it.
We sold it, and we were the most unexciting house purchases in the whole world, because we bought our same house back. Can you imagine, of all the stupid houses we could have bought with rooftops and amazing places, we buy the same house back. And on top of that, it had been neglected, and we had to spend some money to repair it. But nonetheless, the cost of repairs here, the cost of running a home, we paid we bought in the sweet spot. We actually bought it for what we sold it for. So we, unfortunately, the gentleman that sold it to us, he was sick, and they needed to go back to Canada, and they chose to leave. And So they just sold it back to what we bought it for. So I think we bought it back for 180.
About 200.
200 all in, once we paid our closing costs and all that. The best part about living here, of course, is when you own your house, the cost of running your house is extremely inexpensive if you're careful. For instance,
well, I think one of the big things that a lot of people may not know is how low our property taxes here are. So they're only like 0.1% of the value of your home. So, for example, our property tax is $200 a year. And in Tonka, we were paying $7,000 a year.
Yeah,
and
I
on
mean,
top
it's
and
crazy.
on top of that, if you're careful with your utilities and you're not stupid about it, we're paying, and we track everything because it's important to our clients. So we really track everything as we live our life. The realistic life that Glen and Tracey lives. What does it really cost you? And so for us, our water bill on average is about $8 a month.
Well, I know
And then,
electricity though is the high bill, right? That's the most expensive utility.
yeah, it's
The thing is, they tier them. So with water and electricity, they have many different tiers. So if you use a lot, you can triple your usage. If you know what I mean, it goes 3 times the price. So when we're careful, our electricity is only $13 a month.
So we go 3 times as high. We go to $40. Big deal.
Well,
it's not like significant at all as it relates to the running costs of your house. If you're careful, you can $13 on average, and that's including the summertime months. So for us, when you look at that, it's not really that expensive to run your house. Sometimes, for instance, we have what we consider a high HOA, a homeowners association fee, and we pay around $215 or something, $220 a month for that, which is because we have a smaller development and fewer houses. But you get these larger developments with more condos. Their fees tend to be a little lower, usually under the 200, depending if it's a brand new one or it's old. But we would consider our HOA higher than average.
Ours is high because we have virtually no amenities. But
Yes.
you're paying for the security and the gardening and
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
But the actual cost of living here, I would say, is about what did you work it out?
It's less than half. If you compare medical, all those same things would be less than half of what we used to pay in the States.
So absolutely everything for us to live, and when I say live comfortably, meaning we can go out, we can have dinners, we can pay for all our gas, we can get entertained.
Oh my God, why?